We are at the point in your narrative rough draft that it's time for us to start thinking about adding sentence variety. After all, variety is the spice of life. This sentence has 5 words by Gary Provost. This sentence has 5 words. Here are 5 more words. 5-word sentences are fine, but several together become monotonous. Listen to what is happening. The writing is getting boring. The sound of it drones. It's like a stuck record. The ear demands some variety. Now listen. I vary the sentence length and I create music. Music. The writing sings. It has a pleasant rhythm, a lilt, a harmony. I use short sentences, and I use sentences of medium length. And sometimes, when I am certain the reader is rested, I will engage him with a sentence of considerable length, a sentence that burns with energy and builds with all the impetus of a crescendo, the roll of the drums, the crash of the cymbals, sounds that say, listen to this, it is important. And this is why we are having a lesson on sentence variety, because we want to achieve what this writer has just achieved. So today's lesson, how to add sentence variety, we're going to go over these 4 things. First, we'll start with sentence types. Then we'll go with some tips about how to change the start of your sentence, the length of your sentence, and the good kind of repetition. So starting with number 1, sentence types. Simple sentences, compound sentences, complex, and then compound complex. A simple sentence is just a subject and predicate. It's also known as an independent clause, like, the grass grows in the spring. I looked at my mom and smiled. Laura and Joey enjoy walking and swimming. You've got the subject, the grass, and you've got the verb, grows. Okay, the subject, I, and you've got the verb, looked. Just basic simple sentences. And that's okay, you should have some simple sentences. Now, a compound sentence is when you have 2 simple sentences tied together with a conjunction. Conjunctions are like and, but, or, things like that. So, grass grows in the spring, but it dies in winter. Notice that there's a comma before the conjunction. Grass grows in the spring, comma, but it dies in the winter. I looked at my mom and smiled, but she cried in response. Laura and Joey enjoy walking and swimming. They love to watch TV too, because sometimes you don't have to use a conjunction, you can just use a semicolon. It's tying together 2 simple sentences. Using compound sentences is a good way to add variety in your writing. Also, we have the complex sentence. Now, this is a dependent clause plus an independent clause. In other words, a dependent clause plus a simple sentence. Because it is too cold, grass doesn't grow in the winter. So we're starting with the dependent clause there, having a comma, and then giving that simple sentence. You could also do it the other way. Grass doesn't grow in the winter because it is too cold. That's still considered a complex sentence. While I love my mom, sometimes she is difficult to be around. Although I am healthy and fit, I enjoy vegging out in front of the TV. So these all have that dependent clause that couldn't stand alone, like while I love my mom or although I am healthy and fit. Those aren't complete sentences. They cannot stand alone. They are dependent upon being tacked on to an independent clause. Complex sentences is the number 1 way to make your writing sound more sophisticated. Sprinkle those in your writing a lot, and your writing will sound so much better. Okay, lastly, we've got compound complex, and that's exactly what you think it is. It's 2 independent clauses, which is what a compound sentence is, and a dependent clause, which is what a complex sentence is. So, because grass needs warm weather, it doesn't grow in winter, but it grows in the summer. So you've got the because grass needs warm weather, that's the dependent clause, it cannot stand alone. And then you've got the 2 simple sentences. It doesn't grow in the winter, it grows in the summer, and those are tied together with the comma, but. Here's an example. This is what the writing looked like. She wiped her eyes. She knew it was time. She tried to catch her breath. It was stuck in her throat. She knew she needed to relax to be successful. Today had to go perfectly. This is a string of simple sentences. So then we can start adding in compound sentences and complex sentences. She wiped her eyes. She knew it was time. She tried to catch her breath, but it was stuck in her throat. Because today had to go perfectly, she knew she needed to relax to be successful. We've got the compound sentence in the blue, the complex sentence in the green, and it already improves the writing a little bit. Okay, tip number 2 in improving your sentence variety is to look at the start of a sentence. We're going to go over adverbs, starting with ing words, starting with prepositional phrases, and then starting with a different type of transition. Quietly, he snuck into class. Every day, Cindy hugged her grandmother before school. An adverb modifies a verb or an adjective or another adverb. So you can see that instead of just saying he snuck into class and making it a simple basic sentence, you can add how did he sneak into class? Well, he snuck in quietly. And that not only does it make it more descriptive, but it also makes the sentence start a different way, which adds variety, which is the whole goal. Note that there are commas after quietly and every day. Another way you can change the start of a sentence is by starting with an ing word. Crying, he wrapped his arms around her waist. Gulping for air, that's an ing phrase. Gulping for air, Jesse sputtered and gasped as he slowly drowned in the thick waves of disaster around him. So again, those are offset by commas as well. Make sure you're doing that. Quick note, if you start too many sentences with ing words, it becomes repetitive in a bad way. So do it, but limit it. Okay, starting with a prepositional phrase, in the morning, a preposition tells you where something is: in, under, around, after, before, that kind of thing. So a prepositional phrase includes that word, like in the morning. In the morning, I am usually in a great mood. Due to stress, he cannot wait for summer break. After work, Dad likes to read for hours. Again, all of these types of phrases are offset by commas as well. But not only does this give your writing a little bit more description and clarity, but it's a way to add variety. Again, don't start too many sentences with prepositional phrases because it will become repetitive in a bad way, same as the last one. And then you can always do these other transitions, like furthermore, on top of that, although she misses him, she never ... While they love to jog, they also love to watch TV, another, so that kind of stuff as well. So let's take our example that we've already fixed up from last time. So she wiped her eyes. She knew it was time. She tried to catch her breath, but it was stuck in her throat. She knew she needed to relax to be successful. Today had to go perfectly. If we jazz it up a little, here's what it could look like. Wiping her eyes, she knew it was time. Quietly, she tried to catch her breath, but it was stuck in her throat. In her heart, she knew she needed to relax to be successful. Today had to go perfectly. So in addition to what we did last time, which is to make some of them compound, some of them complex, we've also started with an ing word, an adverb, a prepositional phrase, and it's making the writing better little by little. Moving on to number 3 is to change the length of a sentence. You've got extra short, short, medium, and long, and this is kind of what we started off with this sentence has 5 words. We're going to look at it again, and you can see that there's a key. The first part that's red is pretty blah. But when you see it redone, you've got some yellow ones that are really super short, punchy sentences. Sometimes they're only a word long. It's a little sentence fragment. And those are okay to use sometimes. Then you've got the purple sentences that are just short sentences. You've got the green ones, which are medium length, and then the blue one, which is long. And you can read that again to yourself if you'd like to pause it. Having some long sentences and some short sentences is key. Lastly, we'll talk about repetition in terms of making your sentences have variety. There's such a thing as good repetition and annoying repetition, and obviously we want to avoid the annoying kind. You are going to have to repeat key nouns when necessary. So if you were writing about employees, there's no way around it. You're going to say the employee, the employee, the employees. That's going to be in your story a lot. But sometimes you want to start trying to use synonyms for variety. Employees, worker, a worker, the staff. You just need to learn to say things in a different way. The person working in the office, a hired individual, someone employed. All of those give a little bit of extra variety. And here I have a bit of a counterclaim, because some people are going to say it's unavoidable. My story is told in first person, so I'm going to have a lot of sentences that include I. Or my story is told in third person. I'm going to have a lot of sentences that include he or she or the character's name. And that's true. That's true. However, just because your sentences will include I a lot or he and she a lot doesn't mean they all have to start this way. I looked up. I saw the chemicals spilling. I shrieked. Or she bounced off the rooftop. She glided down the wall. Her heart thudded. Okay, yeah, you're going to have I a lot, but you can still start your sentences differently. Unintentional repetition like that can be very annoying for the reader, and you want to reserve repetition for more poetic moments or for emphasis. Here's an example. This example is 7th grade writing. I screamed and immediately choked on smog. Sputtering, I dropped to my knees. I looked up at the sky and I saw ships instead of stars. I saw smoke instead of the tranquil blackness of the night. My face looked black from debris, but my tears left streaks on my face. I sprang up, my shirt clinging to me from sweat. My chest was heaving and my breaths were quick. I surveyed the environment around me. Pillows rested underneath my head. I was dreaming. The formidable recollection of the war sickened me. The war that took place trillions of miles away, back on Namaran, the planet that I never wanted to step foot on again. Because death came as consistent as the beat of my heart. My hands wrapped around a tattered leather journal. It was just one journal from my collection of 17,486. Immortality was like trying to pick a lock on tantalizing golden gates. Immortality is remembering the happy parts and then recalling their death. I thrusted the journal aside and slipped into my slick black costume. It was new. I picked it out myself 2 years ago. Some of my costumes I wore for thousands and thousands of years. I liked this costume. It was death-like and mysterious. It was lined with armor because I was immortal, not invincible. That is perhaps one of the worst parts of my power. I could live through the pain of a bullet through my brain. I remember writing about the worst part of my power as a young superhero. The worst part of my power is reserved for something more barbaric than immortality. The worst part was the ability to bring people back to life, but only as long as I've killed someone first. Not only is this writing incredible for a number of reasons, including the description and the sentence variety, but this example is specifically being shown to you because of the use of repetition in a powerful way. Up in the top part, you've got the instead of repetition. In the middle, you've got the immortality repetition, and in the end, you've got the worst part of my powers repetition. And it's done in a poetic way and not out of accidental poor writing skills or something like that. And that's when repetition is powerful. So to review, how to add sentence variety, you need to have different types: compound, complex, simple, compound, complex. You also should vary the way you're starting your sentence. Sometimes start with an adverb, sometimes start with an ing word, sometimes start with a preposition. Thirdly, the length of your sentences. You want to have very short ones, medium ones, and long ones. And then lastly, avoid annoying repetition, but include purposeful repetition. At this point, we want to have you go forth and continue working on this rough draft. We want you to specifically work on revising your sentence variety. You can keep this presentation open for reference. I have it saved in the resources folder for you if you want to open the presentation version of it. It is a requirement in your narrative. We are looking for sentence variety, so make sure that you do follow the steps in this video.